Hey, Rocky Fork, thank you for joining us today. We hope that you will stay connected by downloading our app.
Are you scared? You should be. I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. I'm a little scared because Jonathan and Nathan King have my phone back there. So if you get a text or anything from me, just know that I've been hacked, all right? Just know I've been hacked. This morning, as we continue through our sermon series, It Came From Within, we're going to talk about fear. And you may be sitting there thinking, I'm not scared. There used to be a phrase, ain't scared, right? You see it on the front of pickup trucks, right? Well, you will be a little bit this morning, all right? I want to challenge you. How many people like being scared? I mean, there's a little measure of you, you're like, I like getting scared just a little bit, right? At times, like when I want to be scared, not when I don't want to be scared, right? I like scary movies, I like, being spooked a little bit or intrigued with mystery, but I really like being scared when things are under control, right? When I know it's going to happen, right? But as soon as it's not, I'm not down with that, right? I don't want that. I don't want to be surprise scared. I want to know going in that that's a possibility, right? Yeah. So, one of the greatest fears still amongst people, humankind, right, across all the world is the fear of speaking in front of people. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Mark, why would you say that? Well, because it's true, and I am scared to death every time I get up here. To me, it's like riding a roller coaster. I like the scare, and I want to do it again, right? So only when I'm in control, right? So I have this reoccurring nightmare for me, right? On Saturday nights, I have this reoccurring nightmare that I am going to forget my message. That I'm not going to be able to get to the stage. This somehow or another the chairs got rearranged and it's now a labyrinth and I can never get here. Maybe that once I get here, I am missing some clothing, right? I'm terrified, right? So this morning when I get to the office, right? It's been a busy week. I get to the office this morning, opened up my computer, and I began to look for my message on my computer. It's not there. Now the panic starts to set in, right? Like what's happening, right? What am I going to do? And turns out I named it something. Who knows, right? It just showed up in some other location and I happened to find it. But the panic, the fear set in, right? The reality of the nightmares came to full fruition. When I was in the Air Force, they taught, I went to a survival school. Now, it's not the kind of survival school like you would see on TV. It's an Air Force survival school. A little different, right? Not like the Army or not like the Navy or the Marines. Survival school for the Air Force is kind of like this. You have to figure out which hotels will take government credit cards. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard, right? You have to find out, like, how much how much am I going to be able to spend at the buffet or some meal on per diem? You have to know what your limits are, right? Yeah. Where are you going to stay, or is it going to have cell service wherever you're at, right? Hard things like that. I learned some things to eat, some things not to eat. How to make shelter, those kind of things, just kind of the basic stuff. I also learned how to get out of a plane once it's going down, right? How to escape. Learned how to get out of an airplane if there's been a water landing, right? Or if things get disoriented and you have to be able to get out. Learned how to put a parachute on, how to deploy it, which one of the gizmos you pull, right? Don't pull the oxygen bottle. It doesn't help. Right? Just makes a hissing noise. You want to pull the other one, right? Because that deploys the chute. Yeah. So we learn all these things, and that all sounds fun, but I can tell you from experience, you never want to have to use any of that. Because if you do, something horrible happened, right? The plane that you were riding on is no longer rideable, right? It's going down. It's no longer an airplane, it's now a dart. And the landing is not going to be good. So I'm flying in a B-52. This is back in the 1990s. And I'm flying in a B-52. We are flying over North Dakota. Now, I don't know what North Dakota had done, but we were bombing them. Okay? We were dropping bombs on North Dakota. And we're cruising along about 500 to 600 miles an hour, about 800 feet off the ground. And I'm looking out of the pilot's window, and I'm looking out, and I'm watching houses and streets and cars go by, and it's really low. It's so low that I can see at night, right, oil pumps. You know, the oil pumps that are out in fields, and many of those have those little stacks off the side of them, have like a flame flickering off to burn off the natural gas. I could see those. That's how low we are. We're cruising along, it's pitch black, all you can see is little dots flying by. All of a sudden, every light in the cockpit went off. The pilot pulls the yoke back. I'm sitting in a seat, and I'm like, now we're looking at the moon, right? We're climbing, and every light is off. Every warning siren, light, switch is now barking. It went from complete silence to everything's wrong in a matter of seconds. We're declaring an emergency. I'm thinking, this is it. I am cinching up my parachute. I pull down my face mask. I'm getting ready to exit the plane. I'm thinking, I got to listen for when they're going to say go. Let's get out, right? All I'm going to see is smoke and ejection seats, and I got to find a hole to get out. Yeah. Turns out we lost a generator. All the lights and all the power went off, and it came back online. And we declared emergency landing, and we went home. And I walked away, right? But man, in those moments, you're like, that was fun training, but I don't want to have to use it, right? And I think most of us, we like to be scared when we know there's going to be a good outcome, right? But as soon as we feel like we're out of control, that we're no longer going to have the outcome we want, I want to stop the ride and get off. Am I right? Fear is a powerful emotion that often overcomes us. It can be led by several outcomes, either things that happen inside our body. We have this moment, you've heard fight and flee, right? But there's also another emotion that goes like, and many of us have felt this before, we are paralyzed or freeze, right? So fear, you either flee, you run, you fight, stand your ground, or the other is you just lock up like a fainting goat, right? Serious. Our body, God has designed us with these responses when we're scared. Our body dumps a load of chemicals into our system. Many thrill seekers try to do this over and over again. They want that adrenaline push. They want the endorphins. They want the dopamine. They want the serotonin to be released. And that's that feeling they have, right? The thrill seeker. It's always fun to be a thrill seeker as long as you know the outcome is good, right? It's all fun as long as we can walk away. But as soon as the physical risk outweighs the thrill-seeking balance, I'm out. Fear becomes real and a present danger. Fear also has the capacity to rob us of life, paralyze us, keep us from doing things. It has the potential to rob us of our faith. And it can keep us from following Jesus Christ in the ways that he intended us to follow him. And how many of us can say something like that? Being really honest, right? I don't follow because this. And it can usually be attached to some fear. Fear is an enemy, and he is a liar that often overcomes us, shocks us, and sometimes comes from within us. Listen to what Jesus said in Mark chapter 7, verse 21. This has kind of been our theme verse. Jesus says, "For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come: sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness," which is profanity, right? "Envy and slander and arrogance and folly," which is foolishness. All these come from inside and defile a person. Fear can be from within us, or it can be external to us. One is caused by something's happening around us, right? That's a response. The other comes from within us when something is happening around us, or when we perceive something is going to happen. And often we call that worry, right? Jesus is obviously concerned, in Mark 7, he's obviously concerned with what is in the heart, with our hearts, and what is happening within us. And if you look closely, he never says fear is evil. In fact, he doesn't even say anything about fear. So how could I add this as a monster if Jesus doesn't talk about it? Good question, right? Maybe I'm stretching it a little bit. But you and I both know there is a fear in our hearts. Right? There is a fear in our hearts that often poisons our faith. There's a fear within us that takes away the ability to follow Jesus the way we really want to, the way we know we should. Maybe you've said something like this: "I'm afraid to start giving to church because I'm afraid to give my life to Christ and be baptized because," you fill in the blank. "I'm afraid to join a group or get involved and serve at church because," "I'm afraid to pray out loud." "I'm afraid to go to church," right? "I'm afraid to surrender my life to Christ. I'm afraid to share my faith with my friends and my coworkers and my family because," you fill in the blank, right? "I'm afraid to approach God because." What's crazy is every single answer or reason for why we fear these things are all based on a lie or a perception that we think outcome is going to happen. Am I right? Come on, somebody nod your head. Am I right? Okay. I can't give because I don't have the resources. That's a lie. I can't get baptized or surrender to Christ because I'm not ready. My life's a mess. That is the reason why to give your life to Christ and surrender and be baptized. I can't join a group or serve at church because I'm too busy. No, you're not. That's a lie. I can't pray because I don't know what to say. I know that rhymes. And you may even use that in a prayer, right? No, you're afraid what other people are going to think. And that's a lie. And that's fear. I can't go to church because I don't belong. All those folks are perfect. That's a lie. Look around you. I'm not even sure the person sitting next to you has their feet on the right shoes on the right feet, right? Everybody's looking right now, right? Make sure, right? And all you guys with Crocs, you don't even know. Right? You don't even know. It doesn't matter, they're Crocs. Right? It's one size fits all feet. Right? I can't share my faith because they may not believe me. No, the truth is, they might. Then what? I can't go to God because I'm broken. I want to get my stuff together first. Who told you that? Satan is a liar. He is a thief. He is here to steal and to kill and destroy. Fear is a tool he uses to keep you from doing what he is calling you to do. It's a poison. So, a lot of people ask this question, is fear a sin? You heard this question before? Is fear a sin? Yes and no. Good answer, right? Right there on the fence. Right there in the meaty part of the middle, right? That's exactly where you want your preacher at, right? Yes and no. Fear is often expressed in feelings of anxiety and worry, helplessness, a sense of oncoming doom. How many people struggle with, don't raise your hands, like me, struggle with anxiety, right? That we borrow trouble, right? We think about this could happen or that could happen, and I rotate all night long in the bed thinking about different things until I can't sleep. My heart rate goes up. Yeah. People fear getting sick. They fear getting hurt. They fear losing a loved one, and all sorts of phobias, right? There are countless numbers of what we can be scared of. Fear is common to the human experience. All of us have some fear. And like children who fear the dark, adults often fear the unknown, the what's going to happen next. That scares me. This type of fear is not a sin. It's part of being a human being. But when fear becomes a problem, it is when it expresses itself in unbelief and distrust in God's character, His promises, and His existence. That's when it becomes a problem. Listen, fear can be a good thing. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10 says this, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Believers fearing the Lord, this isn't bad. It's not that you're afraid of Him. And like a child is afraid of a stranger, it's not a fear of what God might do to us. It's a healthy fear of who He is and a reverence for His power and glory. Fearing God is expressed as obedience and devotion and worship, relationship, and the love of Christ. Paul Tripp wrote like this. He said, "To fear God means that my life is structured by a sense of awe, worship, and obedience that flows out of recognizing God's glory and power." In other words, God becomes the single most important reference point in my life. Everything that I say, everything that I do, all of my motives are anchored in Jesus Christ, the center of my life. The fear of the Lord means I am in awe of Jesus Christ, that I would shape my life around Him, to know Him and to love Him, and to love like Him. The words of Peter, 1 Peter chapter 5, really makes sense in the context of fearing the Lord. It really makes sense, and we look at it in that context or through that lens. Chapter 5, verse 6, he says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxieties on Him, because He cares for you. Be alert and sober of mind. Your enemy, Satan, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of suffering. You're not alone in your suffering. And the God of all grace, who called you to His eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will Himself restore you and make you strong, firm and steadfast. To Him be the power forever and ever, Peter says. Amen. Be in awe of God's power and throw your fears on His feet, because He loves you. And be on guard, because Satan is a liar. He loves for us to fear things that God calls us to do. And we can fight back. Resist the devil. Remain faithful. Trust in God. And when I think about that battle, there's 3 verses that kind of jump out at me. Psalm 34, verse 4 says this: I sought the Lord, or I looked for Him, right? And He answered me and delivered me from all my fears. We have this one on our mirror in the house. Psalm 56:3. When I am afraid, I put my trust in You. Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Let's just push pause just for a moment, okay? Old Testament, New Testament. The theme still comes through both sides, right? It's still the same God. God has the ability to restore us, to protect us, and He gives us a strength that we can trust in. He fills us with His Spirit, which is not timid, it's not weak, it's not something that we would just, oh, I don't know if God can do that. Who told you that? Who lied to you? Right? I want to share a perspective. This is from John chapter 14, verses 1 through 6. This is a viewpoint from Jesus to be confident in Him even when we're in fear. John 14, verses 1 through 6. Let me give you a little setup first. Jesus and His disciples are in the upper room. It is the last night, it's Thursday evening. It's pressing into Friday morning. Friday morning, early, Jesus is going to be arrested. So that's the time frame. They've been together for 3.5 years. Every waking moment, they are with Jesus. When they go to bed, with Jesus. When they wake up in the morning, Jesus, right? All day long. I don't know of any college that does that with a professor, right? Not sure that you want to, right? But here with Jesus, they are together 3.5 years. They are celebrating the Passover meal, which is where we get our communion from, the idea of communion, right? It's very important foundational Christian stuff happens in that evening. Jesus is going to wash the feet of each one of His disciples, including Judas. He washes their feet. Or if you're from St. Louis, you wash their feet, right? Put the R in there. Jesus is going to tell them while this is all happening. He's told them already, but He's telling them in this intimate moment, I am leaving you, and you can't come where I'm going, not yet. Now, this alarms them. They've already been scared a couple of times, but Jesus hasn't left. But now there's this moment of finality. There's this moment of Jesus saying, listen, this is what's going to happen. I want to press pause just for a moment. Again, right? I want you to see that fear is present in that moment. Jesus is leaving. What's going to happen next? Right? Well, we're not clear on that. Right? And fear of the unknown is scary, right? They keep hearing Jesus is going to die, and after 3 days he's going to raise up. But that's in the future, right? Well, that's going to happen way off in the future, and Jesus is saying, no, it's going to happen like in hours. Okay, now it's becoming real. And how many of us, right? We know the words of Jesus. We know the promises of God. But until I am pressed, and it is that last moment, right? Do I really believe them? See what I'm saying? As long as I'm in control, I'm not worried, right? Until I'm not in control, and then I'm worried. This is all of us. These disciples represent all of us. And how many of us have received bad news, disappointing news, and we default to fear? We fire up the worry machine, right? And we blow right past everything that Jesus and God has ever promised us. We bypass trusting God and charge into the realm of the full-blown fear cycle, right? Where you're just chasing your tail. You look like a hamster on a wheel, running for your life, right? That's what it looks like. We worry to the point of sickness, of restlessness, and we wear ourselves out. Sometimes we wear ourselves down to the point where, thank God, there's nobody else to turn but God, right? And we often call that rock bottom, right? But you got to get to that place. You got to get worn out first, torn down, and realize, I can't do it. So with compassion in his heart, he knows all the struggles we're going to have. He wants to paint a picture of hope for us in these last moments, Jesus says. And remember, he's speaking to us right now. I don't know what you're facing. Some of your life may be really good right now. You're on the chick, 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 chick. This is fun, right? Yeah, you just haven't reached that part yet, right? You know what I'm talking about. Life right now is good. I can see what's ahead of me. Jesus speaks into that moment. Do not let your hearts be troubled. The King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the one who created everything and knows you, died for you, says, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. He says, man, if it were not so, I would not have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you. I wouldn't lie to you. I have told you before I am going there, and I'm not making that up. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. That's the question they've had so far. Jesus, you're leaving. Where are you going? How do we get there? How do we stay connected? And Jesus says, you know the way to the place where I'm going. And one of the disciples named Thomas, who we often call the doubter, right? He just asked the question the rest of us weren't brave enough to ask, right? He says, hey, show us the way. That'll be enough. What way are you talking about? And Jesus said, I am. Thomas, listen, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father. That's where you want to go, except through me. And listen, in the middle of those disciples' worst 72 hours of their life, scariest news they've ever received, Jesus is dead. In the midst of that fear, they hear the greatest news ever. Jesus walked out of the grave. Greatest fear, greatest hope. You see how God answers that? And we get in such a hurry. We are so impatient. We worry and work and work. Yeah, imagine what happened between that 72 hours between Jesus walking out of the grave and the worry fest that took place. Right? Jesus is saying, trust me. Be confident in me. I am the truth. Take heart. I am your rescuer. I am the one and only Savior. Fear, we're going to sing here in a minute. And for a lot of us, this is going to make sense. Fear is a liar. But Jesus is the truth. So here's what I would say this morning. Come. Come, let Jesus remove the chains, open the prison doors, relieve you from the worry and the anxiety and the shackles that fear has placed on you for so many years. That you are afraid of the past. You're afraid somebody will find out. You're afraid that you're not good enough. You're afraid that you'll never measure up. You're afraid that God won't love you. Those are all lies. Lies to keep you from taking a step toward Jesus. This morning is your opportunity to resist the devil and to step into faith, to step into promises, to step into the trust that Jesus gives. The confidence that we have in Him. He raised from the grave so that you may have life. Come, let's stand.